Hey, welcome everybody. This is John Paul Medocha, Dr. Speed Selling, and this is the Raging Verbalist number 148. Raging Verbalist, if this is the first time, welcome. If you're an old hat, old veteran, you've come here, this is fantastic. We do this every week, barring technical problems. If a meteorite takes us all out, well, then this might be the last one, but I don't suspect we're going to have that happen right now. Also, you can go to the Facebook group, which is the Position to Win book group and all that. So we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit all of those little buzzes and bells. And with me always standing in for you is the ever lovely Sandra. Sandra, welcome.
Hello, how are you?
Doing great. I mean, we're gonna get through this topic today, no matter what.
Good. All right. So this is part 2 of your adventures in high tech. So let's pick up where we left off. And what was the second worst job you've had in high tech?
Well, let me do the setup. So I moved to California. Data systems design gets me there, and I love that job. I really did. Really liked my boss. The guy had a keen interest in me, and I developed a lot of things that I will have used the rest of my life. Like I worked and developed the power disqualifier methodology of selling, and ended up closing 6 OEM deals in the first year. Awesome, right? And then, well, a couple bad things happened. Number one is Tommy got his ass fired at a sales meeting. By the way, sales meetings are very hazardous to people's health. It's one of the good reasons for not drinking or doing drugs anymore. But he got himself fired, and professional management had arrived, and they said, "Hey, here's a good idea. Let's cut commissions in half." And when they cut commissions in half, I said, "This is crazy." By the way, I complained vociferously. I had read a bunch of touchy-feely business management books, which turned out to be bunk, bullshit, nonsense. Because when I went and made my impassioned plea, they said, "Hey, shut up and go sell something. You're lucky to have a job here." And the VP of sales, Ed, I won't say his last name because he might still be alive. Who knows? But he was a jerk because he said, here's Mr. Motivation. John, I looked over your resume. Frankly, I don't know how you got hired. I don't know. I mean, we would never hire you today. We would never do the deal again. Now, the crazy part about it is, of course, I had just closed 6 deals, and in my experience of the rest of my career is, you never get rid of people who can do sales, no matter what their background or what their personal situation is. You never get rid of people who can succeed. So it cut my commissions in half and said, "Hey, there you go. If you don't like it, lump it. And besides which, you probably can't get another job anyway." I took that as a kind of a challenge, throw down the gauntlet, because if they're going to cut your commissions and not even worry about it, then it's going to get worse down the road. So I went out and I started talking to people. I ended up with not 1, not 2, but 6 different job offers. And sometimes when you leave a situation and you go and you're looking around, you're not quite sure what you're going to dive into. But I ended up diving into what would become the second worst job of my life. I know there's still time, but right now, the way, I mean, if I work for a jerk, I'm looking at him in the mirror every morning. So, okay, got it. So, but this was like the second worst job, and it was a company called AppTech. I don't know if they're still around. They were from Oregon, and it was absolutely the second worst job. My boss really didn't understand who I was and how I operated. She had a very narrow view of everything, and was probably, now I will not say what I say in private about her, which would of course get me, probably maybe banned from YouTube, or the Me Too movement, chase me down. Trust me, if you got a chance to get to know her, you would be saying these things and worse about her. But the worst thing about it is that I actually was doing, I think, a good job. It's just that my style was so radically different than hers that she just couldn't deal with it. And it was arguably one of the toughest things I ever sold, because it was such an oddball piece of technology. but I did do well there, and it really set me up for what I would later accomplish. But wow, what a piece of work, and what a strange trip it was. And so lots of other things we could get into, but all I can say is that's how I ended up landing into that, you know, giant cactus of a job. And they, by the way, they had delusions of grandeur. They thought they were going to be a gazillion-dollar company. And my analysis, even those days, I would always do analysis on marketplaces, said, nope, no way, Jose. And they said, John, you're not qualified to be able to make that statement. Well, I was proven right, though I was living under miserable conditions. So that was how I got to my second worst job. And all I can say is, you know, it happens in everybody's career, which led to success later on.
All right. So what was your big breakthrough gig?
So I'm at AppTech, and it is just a shit storm. And I'm just sitting there going, okay, I got to find another gig. I end up getting called by a recruiter because this was such a weird oddball gig that this recruiter calls me up, and Ruth says, hey, there's this company and they might be interested in hiring you, or having you interview. And I said, well, that sounds fascinating. Now, by the way, I am pitching my little tootsies off, telling them nothing. I mean, if you ever see that, the duck is under, the swan is up above the water is ever placid, but underneath the little feet are going like crazy. That was me. And that was Mercury Computer Systems. It was a breakthrough gig for me. Was under intense pressure with my then worst terrible boss, and it was crazy because what they did is I actually knew that marketplace so well that I actually went to this professor at UCLA who I knew through a speaking. We hired this guy as a speaker, and he gave me lots of great insights. So when I showed up at Mercury, I looked like an expert in their marketplace and ended up getting hired. I'm going to send out a shout out to two people who actually, made that gig possible. The first one was I met my who would become my best boss, Joe. I called him Big Joe Kraus, and absolutely, changed my life for the positive. Did not believe in the beatings will continue until morale improves kind of guy. Was very much a supporter and helped drive me to greater heights. And then, of course, one of the founders of Mercury, who had the ultimate say, and he was actually my boss's boss. And every October 31st, I contact him because that was, really the official day that I interviewed so many years ago. And his name is John Monteleone. John lives in Florida, amazing entrepreneur. Blessed that I had a chance to meet him. And that was a huge breakthrough gig. And that gig really was an amazing gig for me. I got to really spread my wings, got to do all those things that I wanted to do other places, had enough, if you will, enough lead to be able to do it. When I started there, we told everybody we were a $4 million company, kind of making that up. And right now, depending upon where their stock price is today, and I haven't checked, still a shareholder, they had grown to $1 billion valuation. So, that was my huge breakthrough for me. Number one salesperson, had outstanding numbers, great profitability, and it just fit me so well. And all I can say is that when you look at your career and you're thinking about where your career is at, always understand what was that signature job. So that was my signature job. That was the best breakthrough I ever had because it changed me forever. And then, so you have your signature job, and then you have the worst jobs, and you got to keep track of all of these, and we learn from, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So that was my big breakthrough gig, and it was quite amazing.
All right. So what about some of the mutts in your career?
Well, I call them mutts because when you're in a niche, by the way, that was the other thing is that Mercury Computer Systems was in a niche and understood they were in a niche. and they were living in that niche. Now, if you've never heard of an array processor or specialized processors, we were in that kind of niche. And in that niche, when I started, because I had and I have it buried somewhere. Probably when I find it someday, I'll probably scan it and, you know, use that in a book in the future. But I knew who all the players were, and I got to know who all of the different companies in that niche. So here's a step out of talking about my high tech, my personal high tech, and give you some insights. Any market that you're in, like I was in this, weird array processor, specialized processor, attached processor, image processing, all that. I made a list of everybody who was in it. I built positioning diagrams for everybody who was in it, and what I did was I figured out how to know who all these people were. And I called them mutts because we're all a bunch of mutts. We all, because we had come from different companies. We came together. And when I was at Mercury, I said, wow, so who are these other people? It was fascinating to me because, again, big companies say they do competitive analysis and intelligence, and maybe they do, I don't know. But usually they don't. They're not really good at it. Well, I became excellent at it because I wanted to know who I was competing against. And because of that, I ended up working for several of these, what I call butts, who were in the marketplace. I don't know if any of them survived long term, but I know that Mercury did. So you may say, well, John, why did you go somewhere else? Well, uh, the shelf life of a sale, that actually the shelf life, or the half life is probably the better way to say it, of a sales professional is much shorter than you think. It doesn't matter how well you do for companies. For some reason, people get stupid, and I call it stupid because when I was managing teams and teams of people, I never got rid of the best people. I never messed with the best people. I always tried to encourage the best people. I wanted to prune and trim. I wanted to be like the, if you've ever had a chance to see, bonsai, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, trees, you know, the Japanese have an amazing way of building these little dwarf things. We were in a, you know, in the San Diego, I think it was part of the San Diego Zoo, maybe. I don't know, wherever we were at, they had a whole bonsai forest. And no, it isn't like, little miniature trains and everything, but they had like 20 or 30 of these trees. And to talk to people about how much effort they put into them, that's what you need to do in the sales world. Now, I mean, you'll want to think about wearing a hockey mask and having a chainsaw, but you want to prune things. So, I'll just mention one of these, which was this company called Alacron. And Alacron was a couple of brain surgeons, truly brain surgeons, who decided how hard could it be to get into the hardware business. And I described them. Now, it wasn't a bad job. It wasn't going to go anywhere, because how I would describe these guys is that, big hat, little ranch, no cattle. And that's not good. You can't have a ranch without cattle. And so they were interesting, but did not understand what it was going to take to be successful. Now, part of it is the fact, of course, that they didn't have what I'm going to share with you right now, something that you should probably be thinking about. Because if you're out there and you're trying to be successful in life and be successful in business and be successful in all those things, you need a leg up. And part of getting a leg up is having the right ideas, the right material, the right things that are going to work for you. And I'm going to show you right now, which is you go out and you pick up this, which is most businesses fail. Most businesses fail in the first 5 minutes. It just takes them 3 to 5 years to realize it, position to win. And the reason why I wrote this book, the reason why I think this book is relevant and makes sense, is that in the first 5 minutes, these guys were able to they were opportunists. They were able to get some money to build some hardware. But what they didn't know is how to build a position in the market. They didn't know how they fit. They said, oh, no, we're going to just go compete against these people because, well, people will buy from somebody else. That is a really piss poor way to be in business. I don't know if they made it. I don't know if they're still in business. Don't care, because that was a gig that didn't last very long. And part of the reason why it didn't last very long is that they didn't understand what it took to be successful. Now, by the way, most businesses fail in the first 5 minutes is available in physical book, like I just showed you. You can buy that through positiontowinbook.com, positiontowinbook.com. Also, if you want an inscription, I'll write something in there. Also, you can get it through Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and every electronic version possible. Also, you can check out Remote Work for a Better World. Remote Work for a Better World is all about how to live through this crazy world that we live in today and become more successful doing that. But yes, if they had that book, they may have not been mutts. They may have actually grown up to be full-fledged big old doggies. So, all right. So what's the next one?
All right. So how did working for these various companies put you in a position where you started to do turnaround consulting?
Well, it was interesting working for all these companies because while I was working for them, even Mercury Computer Systems, is that I was doing, though I actually was able to tell some bosses like Big Joe that it was possible that I was helping other companies out. Is that what I did was as I kept track of their good, bad, and ugly. I kept track of what they were doing and what were they doing right, what were they doing wrong, how do they capture an opportunity, where were there gaps and holes. You know, if you're out there and you're paying attention, there are lessons all around you. And since I don't believe in the artificial barriers between, the marketing side and the sales side, see, there's lots of belief there's this artificial barrier. Some people there are because mentally they don't have that. But I saw that everything you could do to scare up a lead, get people to find out about you, right? That's the first step. Attention, getting their attention in the market. And whether that's through advertising, marketing, promotion, getting the blimp, I don't care, whatever it is. And then that feeds into going to sales. So what I learned from all these companies is how they went to market, poorly or not. Mercury Computer Systems, by the way, we used to say that you couldn't say the M word because the president of the company, Jay, hated the word marketing. He thought it was a joke. He thought it was a mistake. He thought it was something that was just, we build a better mousetrap. People will find out about our stuff. And for a long time, they did that. They held to that. Now, I think that that's limiting, and when I hear people say, well, but look, these big companies don't advertise and they did just fine. They all do something, even if they don't call it the standardized thing. So I learned a lot from all of these various companies. I kept track of the notes, and it isn't like somebody does all bad or good or ugly. They have a blend, they have a mix, and your task is to find out how to do this. I'll tell you right now, if you're going to get into a business, you definitely want to go, try before you buy. And that is often very challenging and very difficult because when you do that, you're going to find all the things that they didn't tell you, all the things that you didn't know, all the things that you stumbled into. And one of the things that we talk about in the book, and the reasons why I point it to you, and if you go to the website positiontowinbook.com, you'll see some free things that you can go check out. But when you learn some of these things, what you'll now see is all around you marketing lessons, sales lessons, and business lessons, which will potentially save your bacon. And if you're vegan, maybe it'll save your carrot or something. So, all right. So what do we have next?
All right. Are you still involved in high tech today?
I am. In fact, I was working with a client and helped he and his partner kind of launch their business. The partner went away. I then became a partner in the business and acquired a percentage of it. So I have a business that is in high tech today, Acme Embedded Solutions. We're very proud of our track record. We build very rugged product that goes into fast jets, helicopters, anti-aircraft guns. We focus a lot on video. And so I've been doing that for extended period of time. We're 22 years into it. We're going to be in just a little bit. I think we're going to hit our 23rd year, something like that. Great track record with our clients and customers. And most importantly is that it lets me see up close and in person how the world is changing. I'm not doing things from the ancient past. One of my frustrations when I started meeting other sales trainers, because again, I've been fascinated by how to become really good at selling. So I took all the things I'd learned in Vegas, which is about how to deal with people, but you really need to know how to do some real strong sales stuff. And what I found out is that so many of these sales trainers, everything was in the ancient past. So I'm an active seller. I'm actively selling in that space. So I touch high tech every single day.
All right. And what are the good, the bad, and the ugly of technology?
So if you're thinking about potentially getting into the technology realm, whatever you want to do, a couple reality checkpoints. First off, whatever you're going to get into, whatever the technology is today, it is not going to be the same in 5 or 10 or 20, or in my case, 40 years later. And that means that there's going to be a lot of fallout. There's going to be a lot of change. That's why when I hear people naively say, well, these giant companies are never going to go away, and I pick whichever one you want to pick. It's not quite that certain, because what happens with tech is that tech advances, people come up with a breakthrough. That breakthrough may in fact shatter and explode and blow up people that look invincible today. And nowhere is that more true than in high tech. And this is why when somebody says, well, John, no, we use X, or we use Y, or we use Z. Just look at how much change has gone on in the last few years. The fact that we're all carrying smartphones that do more than many of the computers that I sold back in the day that were considered leading edge. If you told somebody that you were going to do a blur filter, you know, they kind of looked at you and depending upon how you said it, and if you had like beer on your breath, they thought you were going to upchuck on them or something. Blur filter. But that was something that somebody developed. I sat and watched somebody hand clean an image that was going to be published in a magazine. Now, you may say, well, geez, that's kind of strange. Well, today, you could just circle this and circle this and circle this and click a button and everything goes away. So the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good is that technology is always going to be changing, and I think we're going to see more and more technology. My sense is that we're nowhere near to the end of this. When I started in technology in '82, I had a lot of people who were 10 years, 20 years, 30 years older than I was. And depending upon how much older they were, if they're 10 years older, they would say, well, you kind of missed some of that really exciting stuff in the late 70s. If somebody was 20 years old, they said, oh boy, you missed the 70s. The fun is over. The money is done. We're not going to see anything happen from here. And if you found people who were from the ancient computer days, all they would talk about is how, it was over. It was done. And I'm here to tell you that I have no such pessimism or cynicism, because I think that though technology has a certain repetition, that it has lots of direction to go and lots of places to go. And I don't think that we have seen the end. I think, in fact, we are probably well into the, we're beyond the beginning, but we're nowhere near where we will end up. And the ugly part about it is that technology creates, and this is why it's ugly, because technology will destroy, and this is what capitalism is all about, it's what innovation is all about, is that it is a very destructive force. The internet, which nobody even knew about. I mean, I've been hanging around online because frankly, this is what it is. It's online, but now we call it the web and all this other stuff. I've been utilizing that since 1983. Now, I'm not saying that makes me smarter, better, whatever. I'm saying I'm an earlier adopter. So when somebody says, well, this is all brand new. No, it's more refined. And the internet is and will remain what I call a serial killer. It's going to keep killing businesses and sectors and chewing them up. Go watch the movie Terminator 2 with Arnold. And, in some ways, if you want to live, come with me, because what you have to be fleet of foot, and you got to stay in front of that robot that's trying to kill you, or that machine that's going to wipe you out. And with that, what I'm going to finish this up with is that it's been a great 40 years. I don't necessarily sense that I'm going to be doing this 40 years from now, but you never know. So, make a date 40 years from now, and we'll meet up, and, Sandra will still look the same because, of course, clean living, and she's in the middle of the country and takes care of herself and all that. But I don't know what I'll look like. Who knows? By then we'll be able to have all kinds of great mechanisms to do that. But what I will say to you is that it has been a great wild ride. I don't see it ending anytime soon. And I wish you all great success. And this has been the Raging Verbalist 148 for myself and Sandra. I'm John Paul Mendoza, Dr. Speed Selling. Have a great one. And we'll see you next week with another exciting topic. Hey, go to the Facebook group, Position to Win Book. Toss in a topic or two that you want me to rant and rave about. Trust me, I've got an opinion about just about everything. Thanks.